my name is Natalya Konforti from Glitches and Stitches. I'm an artist and designer based in Dubai, and for this workshop we're going to be making Exquisite Corpse art cards. Now, don't be intimidated by the name. I promise it's not as gory as it sounds. Exquisite Corpse is actually a surrealist art game that was developed in Paris around the 1920s by artists like Benjamin Perret and Yves Tanguy. And the idea was that artists would collectively draw a figurine, each drawing a separate portion without seeing what the others had done. And at the end, you would get a collaborative piece of art. So this time we're going to be doing a little bit of a twist on that original version by using art prompts and drawing the different portions onto separate cards that can later be mixed and matched to create creatures of all sorts. So for the material, I am working on 160 GSM cardstock. This is just an A4 that I've cut into quarters. If you don't have any thicker paper, you could also use printer paper. That'll work just fine. And for the drawing material, just gather whatever you have at home: crayons, pencils, markers, paint. I personally find that the more different mediums you use, the better your artwork turns out. So let's get started.
So I've aligned my 3 bits of paper here, and I'm going to make a little indentation with my pencil so that I know exactly where each sketch should stop and begin. Once that's done, I'm going to make a little note so that I know which one is the top, middle, and bottom sheet. So here I'm mixing the prompts. And here we have predator, lives in a herd, lives in the jungle. Okay, so now that we have all 3 prompts, I can get to drawing each separate one. So I'm going to start off here with the predator, and it's the top sheet of paper, so that's for the head. Now remember that the 2 lines at the bottom are going to be where my drawing connects with the next sheet. So I have to make sure that my drawing will end with the 2 lines at the bottom. I'm starting off by just roughly drawing the outlines with a pencil, just kind of to give me a guide. When you're sketching, it's always useful to try to break down the shapes into geometrical forms. So now that my outline's done, I'm going to shade in the background, the main area, with some watercolors. I'm using watercolor for the kind of the background color, but if you don't have watercolors, you could use something else. You can really use any artistic material that you like with these. If you want to go straight on ahead with markers, crayons, colored pencils, that's fine too. Now, the reason that I'm using thicker stock paper is because I'm working with watercolor, and when working with watercolor, my paper tends to get quite wet, so if I were to use printer paper instead here, it would be getting all wrinkly. The paper wouldn't be able to absorb this much water. But if you're not working with watercolor or paint, printer paper is fine. Okay, now that I have finished with the watercolor portion, I'm just going to set it aside so that it can dry a bit. And I'm going to move on to the second panel, which is lives in a herd. I think I'm going to go with an elephant. So for the middle panel, you have a dash at the top of your page and at the bottom of your page. It connects with 2 panels. So make sure that you draw the shape out so that it starts at the top dashes and ends at the bottom dashes. And I could kind of imagine a circus elephant maybe standing on its hind legs. So I'm going to draw the 2 front legs as if the elephant were standing on its hind legs. Make sure that your shadows and light come from the same side on all 3 sketches. So again, I'm going to do my left side a little bit darker as if the light were coming from the right. Okay, now that I'm done with the watercolor of the second panel, I'm moving on to the third, and that was lives in a jungle. I think I am going to go with a monkey with a long squiggly tail. So I'm starting again from the dashes that I put up at the top, and I think I'm going to draw just the 2 bottom or hind legs of the monkey, as if he were jumping up into the sky. And now I'm going to shade in the monkey with a nice medium brown. Again, the left side should be the darker side. Since the tail is behind the rest of the body, it should be darker than the body because it would be in some shadow, especially up at the top. I like to have kind of a vague background color and then build up, adding more and more detail with different mediums as I go along. Going back to the predator, I'm going to start off with some colored pencils to add a bit more definition. Here I'm using a colored pencil that's a pretty similar tone to the background that I've done before, and I'm just tracing over some lines to get the details a little bit more visible. And now I'm going to use some black colored pencil to fill in the stripes. And here I'm adding some pink colored pencil on the nose. Now I'm using a brown that's a little bit darker than the one before to add in some fur details. So and now I'm going to mix in a bit of marker. This black marker is nice and dark. And there we go, my tiger head is finished. Now I'm going to move on to adding a few small details to the elephant, the herd. And now for the finishing touch, I'm just going to add a bit of white marker. Now on to the last one. So kind of like for the tiger, I'm going to be adding the same types of colors in around the edges to give a 3D effect. And here I'm scribbling some small little dashes to add a fur texture. And then I'm going to outline the edges again with my black marker. Okay, there we go. Now all three panels are finished. Let's see how they match up. Okay, everything's aligned. Tiger, elephant, monkey. Now what's really fun is to do a whole bunch of these, and then as long as your lines are always 3 centimeters in from the edge, you can mix and match.
I hope you enjoyed the workshop. You could use the same idea to mix all sorts of things. You could mix graphic styles, for example, with Cubism, Pointillism, and abstract or Impressionism. You could try mixing different color constraints, going from primary colors, then using only secondary colors, then using only black and white. The possibilities are literally endless, so I'm super excited to see what you guys come up with. Until then, stay at home, stay safe, and stay creative.